Listen, many of you have heard me talk about hope. I often say that hope is the superpower of the Democratic Party. And when we talk about hope, my friends, I can't help but think about our vice president. Folks, she gives hope to folks in every corner of this nation. Every time she voted to break ties in the United States Senate over the past 2 years, the American people won. From the American Rescue Plan to the Inflation Reduction Act, her tie-breaking vote made these results for the American people possible. And she has crisscrossed the country, making sure the American people know just what this administration has done and accomplished, highlighting everything from how we're fixing lead pipes to shining a spotlight on the maternal health crisis in this country. She's led the administration's response to the extreme Republican attacks on women's reproductive rights, traveling everywhere from Florida to Indiana to Connecticut, fighting to protect a woman's fundamental right to make their own health care decisions. And she knew what was at stake in this past election. And alongside President Biden, they fought like hell to make our wins in the midterms possible. Thanks in large part to President Biden and Vice President Harris, the DNC raised a record $331 million last summer. And we used that record fundraising success to make a historic over $90 million investments in the midterms. Folks, that is triple the $30 million that was spent in 2018. Most importantly, though, because of Vice President Harris, millions of kids across this country, kids of all backgrounds, with all different types of American stories, now know how big they can dream. Vice President Kamala Harris is for the people. And that's who she and President Biden are fighting for and delivering for each and every day. Folks, it is indeed my distinct honor to welcome her here today. My friends, please join me in welcoming the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Good evening, everyone. Can we give it up for Chairman Jamie Harrison? And we've got to recognize and always thank the Chair, Sheriff Street, and Pennsylvania Democrats for all you do every day, and for hosting us, and for your work to elect Governor Josh Shapiro and Senator John Fetterman. You guys did your thing. You did your thing. We were counting on you. We needed you. And Pennsylvania Democrats, you knew what you were doing. And you done good. And we thank you because our whole nation has benefited from your work. So I am very proud to, of course, be here with one of Pennsylvania's proudest sons, our President, Joe Biden. So tonight we gather just a few months after the 2022 elections. And we knew In that election, there was so much at stake. And thanks to everyone here, because of your work, Democrats won. And up and down the ballot, all across our country, America and Americans spoke with their vote. We defeated big lies and extremism. In Secretary of State races in Arizona, in Georgia, in Minnesota, in Nevada. We defended reproductive rights in Kansas, California, Michigan, Montana, Kentucky, and Vermont. We had the best midterms for governors in 35 years. And once again, have Democratic governors in Arizona, Maryland, and Massachusetts. Which is why, when someone asked me a few weeks ago for my one word to describe the new year, I said, momentum. Momentum. Democrats, we are delivering. Actually, we are delivering big time. Think about it. After 2 years of good work, we have a lot of good material to show for it. Just today, President Biden announced record job growth. And that is because when we lead, we build a future in which every American can not only survive, but can thrive. That's who we are. So we have momentum. That's right. And now, let's let the people know. That's right. This is what they voted for, and this is what is happening. Here in Philadelphia, we delivered new lanes and sidewalks on Roosevelt Boulevard because working people told us, and this is who we are. Folks talk with us and we listen. They told us they need to get to work. To our college Dems, let's remind people that because you organized, because you voted, we made the largest investment in the climate crisis in history. Because you spoke out and said, our future is at stake, and you got to do something. We listened. We listened to our seniors that said, we deserve to be able to retire with dignity and not bankruptcy. And they said, we want to support those who know better than anyone, that's who we all are, that we must protect Social Security. We listened to them. They said, bring down the cost of insulin. And so we delivered and brought down the cost for our seniors to $35 a month. We listen, and then we respond with action. That's who we are. And let us clearly see the current environment in which we exist. There are those who want to stand in the way of our momentum, the extremist so-called leaders who want to distract and divide our nation as they ban books, as they reject history of America and history classes, as they criminalize doctors and nurses and attack the sacred right to vote. But we know what to do. We vote, and right now, this January of 2023, we build on our momentum. We build on our momentum, and we do that by continuing to do what we know is in the best interest of our nation and the strength of our nation. We continue to unify our country. We continue to lift up the voices, and we continue to organize. Democrats, as we gather here in Philadelphia, the place that first defined freedom and liberty, let us bring together those who believe in freedom and liberty for all, for all. Because that is what America stands for. We, as Democrats, love our country. We love our country. We love our country, and we believe in its promise, and we believe in the foundational principles that hold us together, that allow us to be a model for the world. So let us continue to know what we stand for and what the Democratic Party stands for. And I do believe that when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. So we stand, we fight for the right to marry the person you love. We stand for the belief and the right that all people should have to live without the constant fear of gun violence. We stand for the right of a woman, for all people to make decisions about their own body and not the government making that decision for them. And we stand for the right of everyone, of every race, gender, and religion to be safe and to be free from violence, including from those who are sworn to protect and serve. And with all that being said, there is no one more clear about what he stands for and who he fights for than our President, Joe Biden.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. I want to be real clear. She's a Philly girl. So there's no way I can stand here today without saying, go Eagles, fly, Eagles, fly. None. I tell you what, thank God. Thank God I'm a Philadelphia professional sports fan. Because if I wasn't a fan, I'd be sleeping alone. And by the way, let's give Kamala another round of applause. She's a great vice president. I want to say special thanks to Jamie for his leadership and to all the members of the DNC for your service, for all you've done for the party and for the nation, because that's why we're in this business, for the nation. Standing here, I'm reminded that just a few months ago, we entered the 2022 midterm election with a rally here in Philly. Remember the midterms? Remember how our friends in the press and pundits alike, and even some in our own party, were predicting a giant red wave? Well, guess what? It never happened. Instead, we had a historic performance. We added Democratic governors, we kept the U.S. Senate, and we ran closer than anyone ever thought possible in the House. And we flipped control of 4 state legislative chambers, including the State House right here in Pennsylvania. And how did we do it? We knew what we were for. And we had great candidates like Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman here in Pennsylvania. Both stand up for personal freedoms, the right to choose, standing up for democracy, and running on our record. You know, as of this month, we've created 12 million new jobs. We created more new jobs in 2 years than any president did in their entire term. That's because of you. The strongest 2 years of growth in history by a long shot. 3.4% unemployment, the lowest in 54 years. The last time unemployment was this low was in 1969, in May of '69. Think about that. What's more, Black and Hispanic unemployment is near record lows. More Americans applied to start small businesses. More Americans in 2 years than any year on record. The biggest investment in American infrastructure since Eisenhower's administration, interstate highway system. Our roads, our highways, bridges, ports, airports, clean water systems, high-speed internet, rail. Lower health care costs and lower prescription drug prices. Not only including that $35 a month for insulin, but come January of next year, what we've already passed, no senior will have to pay more than $2,000 a year for their prescriptions. A month. Some of the cancer drugs, as you unfortunately many of you know, is $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a year. The first Black woman on the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Ketanji Brown Jackson. And by the way, more appellate court judges who are Black women than every other president combined. Every other president combined. Most significant gun control passed in 30 years. We got more to do, including getting rid of assault weapons and magazines and all 10 more. And as already been mentioned, the biggest investment in tackling the climate crisis in the history of not only this country, but the history of the world. Folks, that's not even all of it. We're not even close. In fact, let me say something. We're just getting started. No, I'm telling you. I don't think many of you believe when I told you we were going to get a lot done after the first year, when all the things we said we were going to do. I don't think some of you, although you've been good to me, I don't think you really believed that we were going to do as well as you did in the off-year election. But we got a lot more to do. We got a lot more to do. And by the way, we paid for everything we did. And unlike the Republicans, we cut the deficit $1.7 trillion in 2 years. You know how we did it? We said, you know, the super wealthy maybe should pay a little bit. And they ain't even close yet. I intend to get it done, more done. So let me ask you a simple question. Are you with me? I ran for president. I ran for president. Thank you. I ran for president for 3 reasons, and I made no bones about it. The first was to restore the soul of the nation. Honesty, decency, dignity, rooting out racism, treating everyone with respect, giving hate no safe harbor. The second reason I said I was running, and remember, that I said we're going to rebuild the backbone of the nation, the middle class. No more trickle-down economics. I lived not far from here in Claymont, Delaware, and before that in Scranton. Not a whole lot trickled down to my kitchen table when I was growing up. To give people who built this nation a real shot. And the third reason, which turned out many thought was impossible, and I must tell you I was wondering for a little bit there, was to unite the country. We are a democracy. You cannot govern without consensus. It's not possible. This is still the hardest thing to get done, but I refuse to give up. We can't give up. We need to come together as a nation. Look, I came to the presidency determined to put an end to trickle-down economics. The view from Park Avenue says when the wealthy do very well, big tax breaks are going to enable them to do that. Maybe it will trickle down to everybody else. Well, guess what? There's another view, the one that I hold, and I believe a majority of American people hold, like the folks here in Philly, like where I was born in Scranton, like Claymont, Delaware, just a few miles from. I really mean this. The view that American workers are ready to work harder than anyone else. They just need a shot. I really mean it. All they need is a shot. They get up every morning, go to work, and bust their necks trying to make an honest living. My dad used to say, and he literally would say this, he said, Joey, your job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and he meant it. Not a joke. Look, I've said it many times. Wall Street, important as it is, didn't build this country. The middle class did. And by the way, unions built the middle class. Folks, look, we need to build our nation. We really do have to build our economy from the bottom up and the middle out, and not from the top down, because when the middle class does well, everyone does well. The poor have a shot, the rich still do very well, and the middle class have a little breathing room, as my dad would say. For decades, the backbone of America, the middle class, has been hollowed out. I mean, literally hollowed out. Good paid manufacturing jobs moved overseas because labor was cheaper, and corporations went overseas. We exported jobs and imported product. Once thriving cities and towns became shadows of what they used to be. When those towns were hollowed out, something else was lost. A pride, a sense of self-esteem, sense of self-worth. Those of you who were over 40, did you ever think we'd be in a situation where blue-collar workers are voting Republican? No, let's got to be honest, man. Because they think we forgot them. They think we don't care. They're coming back, but that's what they thought. When those jobs left, a lot were left out and left behind. A lot of them came to believe we stopped paying attention to working class the way we used to. A lot of them came to believe the Democratic Party stopped caring about them. And lots of folks feel that way today still, but we're making inroads. We're turning it around. My first 2 years in office, we created 750,000 manufacturing jobs. And by the way, where is it written America can't lead the world again in manufacturing? Where is that written? Our economic agenda created a boom in manufacturing, from semiconductor chips to electric vehicles. Advanced batteries are going to power the vehicles, in addition to building 500,000 charging stations all across America. There have been major private investments, totaling nearly $300 billion, much of which is in just one industry, semiconductors, generating significant job opportunities in manufacturing in America. For decades, we imported products and exported jobs. Now America is exporting products and creating jobs because we're doing something that for years and years people just talked about. We're buying American. Buying American is not just by that I mean the government is buying America. My administration, there's a law back in the early 30s that we never paid much attention to. It said when the president spends your tax dollars to put a new deck in an aircraft carrier or build a highway, it should be built by Americans and American products. Well, guess what? My administration is doing it. Buying America is a reality. We just made a lot of progress overseas as well in the past 2 years. Jobs are up, wages are up, inflation is down, and COVID no longer controls our lives. But now the extreme MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives have made it clear they intend to put it all at risk. They intend to destroy. No, I'm not a joke. Look, you may remember when during the off-year election I started talking about MAGA Republicans and democracy. And a lot of you thought, what the hell is he talking about? Why isn't he talking about A, B, C, or D specific issue? Well, guess what? They intend to destroy this is not your father's Republican Party. No, really, think about it. These aren't conservatives. These aren't conservatives. These are disruptive people. They intend to destroy the progress we made. Folks, as I said, this is not your father's Republican Party. Just take a look at what they're doing. They campaigned on fiscal responsibility. But the first bill that passed the House of Representatives added $114 billion to the deficit. First one. They introduced another bill to limit the president's authority over the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Because they're mad, I use that authority to lower gas prices by $1.50 a gallon, period. Look. They introduced a bill. This is going to, you think I'm crazy? When I said this stuff in the off year, people looked at me like I was nuts. They're nuts. I'm not the one. They introduced a bill that will eliminate the IRS and replace it with a 30% national sales tax. Oh, no. You heard me. 30% national sales tax. Think about that. Means 30% on groceries, gasoline, clothing, school supplies, medicine, big ticket items like rent and cars. Shifting the entire burden to the working class and middle class in America. It's not going to happen. I'm going to veto the sucker if it ever got to me. It's not going to happen. I know the Republicans ran an inflation last election. I didn't know they were trying to make it worse. And of course, as they always do, they still want to cut taxes on the wealthiest and biggest corporations. By the way, you know, the idea, you got to be kidding me, no billionaire should pay a lower tax rate than a school teacher or a firefighter, because that's what they, by the way, there's 1,000 billionaires and they pay an average of 3% in taxes. 3%. For God's name, what is this all about? Republicans keep talking about what they're going to do to Social Security and Medicare. Americans have been paying in Medicare since you got your first paycheck when you're 16 years old. And Social Security, since you started working. Well, I got a better idea. I want to strengthen Social Security and Medicare, not gut it. If people making over $400,000 a year paid at the same rate that everybody making $60, $70, $80, $90, $139,000 a year up to, guess what? Social Security and Medicare would grow strong without cutting benefits, without raising taxes on a single person making under 400 grand. Look, so let's make it real simple. If Republicans try to cut Social Security, it's not going to get by the Senate, in my view, but I'll stop them. If they try to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I got a veto pen. If they try to pass the 30% national sales tax, I'll stop them. And if they send me a national ban on the right to choose, I will stop them. Look, folks, now we're in a situation, if Republicans want to work together to find real solutions, to grow manufacturing jobs, to build the strongest economy in the world and keep it that way, which we are now, where Americans are paid a fair wage, make the wealthy begin to pay their share of taxes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm not going to let anyone use the full faith and credit of the United States as a bargaining chip, the so-called national debt. The national debt has been accumulated over 220 years. We're paying interest on that debt that was accumulated over 220 years. And guess what? We've never missed a single payment. The United States is a nation who pays its bills. And folks, for as much as we've gotten done over the past 2 years, we have some unfinished business on our agenda. We need to make the cost of insulin $35 a month for every American, including the 200,000 kids out there. We need to pass child care and family paid leave. We need to restore the expanded child tax credit that cut child poverty nearly in half. And we need to ban assault weapons and limit the number of bullets that can be in a magazine. I did it once before as a United States Senator. We'll do it again. And by the way, yesterday, just yesterday, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals struck down a law that bars domestic abusers, and I wrote the Violence Against Women Act, bars domestic abusers who are under a restraining order to stay away from the woman or child they abused from possessing a firearm. They struck it down. And by the way, they're 8 times as likely to get shot if you're in that situation. Look, the court struck down a common sense law that's been in the books for 30 years. They're saying it's okay for someone under a restraining order for threatening their partner or their child to own a firearm. It's outrageous. It's dangerous. Abusers are 5 times more likely to kill his female victim if he's armed with a gun. I respect the right of responsible gun owners, but someone who has threatened or beaten a domestic partner is not a responsible gun owner. And the court should be on the side of the victims of domestic violence, not on the side of the abusers. Look, it's an example of why it's so important. We've confirmed nearly 100 federal judges in just 2 years. We're committed to keeping up the pace. We need to codify Roe v. Wade. We need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights and Advancement Act. And the Freedom to Vote Act. And the tragic death of Tyree Nichols, we're reminded once again, we have to pass safeguards that were built into the George Floyd Policing Act. This is what I did on the federal level. I signed the strongest executive order ever to reform federal police practices. I did my job. How many more horrible tragedies? How many more ghastly videos do we have, needless death do we have to see before Congress steps up and does its job? Folks, I truly believe we're living at an inflection point in modern history. It comes along every 4 or 5 generations, where what happens in a short period of time in a country or around the world has a fundamental effect for the next 3 to 4 decades. Whether we're talking about dealing with the climate crisis. Look, if we don't move on the climate crisis, we're going to see the North Pole, as the kids would say. We're going to see those glaciers melting. You're going to see sea levels rising up to 3 feet. That means we carry a heavy responsibility. And it means we have an extraordinary opportunity as well. An extraordinary opportunity to build the future we want for our children and our grandchildren. It hadn't been available to us in the past. Extraordinary opportunity to build America and a world that's more fair and just and more free. And that fills me with optimism. I don't want to keep you standing much longer. Just say one more thing. You know what? America is back and we're leading the world again. We are. We've united Europe. We've united Asia, Japan. Japan is doing more than it's ever done. We have AUKUS dealing with everything from Australia to India. We're uniting the world. In fact, I've never been more optimistic about America's future than I am today. I've always believed you could define America in one world. I spent a lot of time with Xi Jinping when I was vice president the last couple of years. And Barack asked me to spend time with him because we knew he was going to be president. It wasn't appropriate for a president to be spending all the time. No, I mean it sincerely. So I traveled 17,000 miles with him. I met with him more than any other world leader. Now over 80 hours, 68 of which are in person. Just me and an interpreter, and he having a simultaneous interpreter. We were in the Tibetan plateau, and he looked at me and said, "Can you define America for me?" And I mean it sincerely. Give me my word as a Biden. I said, "Yes, one word. Possibilities." Right. That's why we, in many cases, we're viewed as the ugly Americans, because we think anything is possible. No, I really mean it. Think about it. Can you name me one major initiative we united to do as Americans and we didn't get done? I mean one. Folks, look, I still believe that today. That there's literally nothing we can't do if we put our mind to it. We just remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. Nothing is beyond our, not really, nothing's beyond our capacity. And we're the only nation in the world that's come out of every crisis stronger than before we went in. And that's what we're doing now. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.